Hey people, welcome to the channel, and this is going to be a video about self-defense, specifically talking about the tools available to you, many that you may have considered before, but I'm sure there's going to be quite a few that you haven't thought of, so stick around. I'll be talking about some of the options that you have available no matter where you are. If you're in the United States, if you're in Europe, if you are in a plane, I assure you there are options out there if you know what you're doing. And having said that, the most useful thing in the table is none of these things, it's this thing right here. The knowledge, the kind of thing that I share with you guys through my books. This is by far the most important thing so as to keep yourself and your family safe. These are all tools. If you don't have the right knowledge, if you don't have the right mindset, then you're missing the most important part. This is the book I've written about it. It is full of information about self-defense, using different tools, different tactics, improvised things you can carry, but most of all, the mindset. It is a lot about avoiding problems, about reading people, about knowing what you're supposed to do. I've lost count of how many videos I've seen of people that have maybe one of these, but did not have this, and they still mess up, all right? So again, the most important thing you have to incorporate is knowledge. What is it that's available to you where you are? Now, ideally, you would have what? Something like this, right? If you're in the United States and you can get yourself a concealed carry license, you'll probably go with something like this. Now, keep in mind, this is still very much a tool. It's not some magic wand. If you don't have the knowledge that you acquire through training, with classes, with proper instruction from qualified instructors, then this is just one more tool you don't know how to use. This is like having a car and not knowing how to drive. The stuff that I explain in my books, there's chapters that I have dedicated to knowing how to use these things that I've learned in classes myself. And keep in mind, many of the things I talk about are things that I have experienced myself. I'm not going into details because I'm not an idiot and it's not in my best interest. But beyond that, and even more important, this is what I've researched for many years. So it's not just about, oh, I've gone through this and this worked for me once or twice. No, it's about learning what has worked for people in several occasions. There's some things that work better than others. Let's get to this. Now, we talked about if you have pretty much unrestricted options, right? It's really not even that, because even in places where you can have a concealed firearm, there's maybe restrictions in terms of blades, blade length, certain kind of knives, if it's automatic or not, and whatnot. There's always gonna be some limitations. So again, know your local laws, know what you can or cannot carry, right? Now, this is an option in some countries. It's not just in the United States. There's countries in Europe that if you do the right paperwork and you get the right license, you can carry a firearm as well. That would be maybe the best option for someone that is serious about knowing how to defend themselves and serious about incorporating this into their lifestyle. Now, the other thing that I would suggest immediately after this, when available, when legal for you to do so, pepper spray. Pepper spray has been proven time and again to be quite effective, right? And these are restrictions that change from one country to the other, especially in Europe. You have countries where, for example, in UK, these two are equally illegal. In UK, it doesn't matter if it's a handgun, if it's a Glock, if it's a full automatic AK-47 or a pepper spray, it's all under the same group, and it's all landing you in jail several years. They're equally illegal in UK. Sounds crazy, and yes, it is. But that's what you're dealing with. Now, in other countries, not at all. If you go, for example, in France, in Spain, in Germany, there's some kind of limitation. I think it's for defense against animals, but basically you can have some kind of pepper spray in Germany as well. You need to know the law specifically of that country, and most people will readily know that. Maybe one of the best ways is going into a gun store, or even in hardware stores. You can go and buy these for like 15, 20 bucks. And if it's being sold openly in stores, there's a good chance it's perfectly legal for you to carry. But again, just make sure you check. And this does work for many of the cases in which and especially when you're not dealing with high levels of crime, where the likeliness of you finding yourself being attacked by several armed attackers. I did a video recently of a guy in Argentina that fought off like 5 different criminals. Yeah, that is different. That is really not all that common in parts of Europe. So that's maybe not your, that's not the kind of threat you're likely to face. for the violent individual, for the person that is, taking advantage of you, that sort of thing, this works quite nicely. But what if it's not possible? Well, what if I'm in UK? Well, can you have hand sanitizer? Actually, yes, you can. And actually, alcohol is quite irritating to your eyes. It actually causes permanent eye damage. Yes, alcohol causes permanent eye damage. Again, doing research, you find people that even lost their eye by accidentally having a single drop of alcohol in their eye. There was a case of an actor that ended up losing an eye because of that. So alcohol does work. Now, keep in mind, you cannot just have any container and fill it up with acid or anything corrosive and start spreading people with that, because, that's gonna be specifically not okay. It's gonna be specifically you doing the same thing. But hand sanitizer, it is perfectly legal no matter where you are. Hand sanitizer, legal everywhere. Hand sanitizer with even more alcohol, still legal to have a little bottle with alcohol and some scent and some balm and oil for your hands. That's my hand sanitizer, sir. Perfectly legal everywhere. Not something that's gonna be banned. Even in the right size, you can carry that in a plane. All right, so these are all options, and there's gonna be different spray bottles. There's gonna be some that are a little bit stronger than others. There's some that you can just squeeze, and depending on how strong you squeeze, it has quite a bit of projection. All little things to keep in mind and see what works best for you. All right, now what about extremely restrictive places in which I cannot have anything else? Well, this is a pouch with coins. This is pocket change. This is what your grandmother carries to buy bread, right, in some places. Now, you probably know where this is going. You can use this as a slapjack or something like a blunt weapon. It's still a bag with coins. I've carried this for years in planes. No one has a problem with this. They may look at it, they may see if it has pocket change or not. Yes, it's pocket change. Can you do this with a cloth bag? You've seen maybe movies where they do this with a sock. Well, actually that explodes the moment you use it. Again, there's videos of that. Why? Because leather is much stronger than cloth and coins are metal. And the ridge of the metal will cut through cloth the second it impacts anything. You'll only get one hit. And I've seen a little girl get hit over the head with a sock with a bunch of coins and she didn't even go down. Not the same results as if you do this with this, because the leather keeps it all together, transfer the energy far better, and this will be an effective tool to defend yourself. It's just, and I actually explain this. There's a chapter here where I explain how to basically make this thing, and it's really no big deal. Anyone can make this with a piece of leather and needle and thread, and just sewing this together in one of the chapters here. This is actually a solid option when you have a lot of restrictions. Something that a lot of people don't consider is a belt. This is one of these rigger belts. You can actually pull it out of your pants pretty fast if you had a little bit of practice with it, but mostly you're going with this. You're going with a buckle. It's metal, it's sharp, it cuts probably even better than that. And you can have this with you everywhere you go. It is a belt. Maybe this is more of a sturdier, more tactical-ish belt, but I'm sure there's a bunch of options in terms of different belts with big buckles that can work just as well for you. What about again, these are things I've taken with me in airplanes. These are things I've taken with me in London. An umbrella. It's just an umbrella, right? Nothing to it. Oh yeah, just this thing for using it. You may even, when you walk towards the security guy, you may use it for, a little bit of extra support, giving your fragile hip, right? But if you remove that rubber piece, it is a little bit of sharper, and it is one of these unbreakable umbrellas. It's like fiberglass, so it's very sturdy, and it allows you to do a number of things. Again, I have a chapter on some of the ways in which you can use an umbrella for creating distance, for using it for using it as a deterrent or something to defend yourself if you have to. The length of the umbrella, especially against someone wielding a knife, it is very interesting. It's something you may wanna, you definitely want to consider if you want to have a proper tool in very restrictive environments. Pens, tactical pens, avoid the tactical pen, right? Especially in airports, they're very much aware of the tactical pen. I've seen even people get arrested because of this, right? Now, and besides, there's really no point. Parker Yoder, super cheap, It is steel, it's pretty sturdy. Zebra pen also, even something as, even plastic, right? Even the plastic of a traditional big pen, you can use it pretty much as something that can cause quite a bit of damage. There's a metal in the little ball there, and it's a very small surface, so it's likely to penetrate skin easily. And something like a fountain pen, yeah, that can be pretty sharp too, okay? I suggest going with metal, but I would also talk about avoiding the tactical-ish looking instruments because those are likely to get you into trouble. Can you hit people over the head with your cell phone? Yes, you can. Is it the first thing that I think of? No. But I've seen guys, instructors talk about, oh, you hit like... Yeah, okay. You know what? A pen is actually going to be far better. If it comes down to hitting people and you're as interested in this as I assume you are, this is going to be a far better option. The belt is going to be a better option. The pen for causing some, tearing of the skin is going to be a better option. What about knives? Oh, I can have a knife. I'm in UK. Well, this is actually a UK legal pen knife. It is under 3 inches and it does not lock into place. Oh, but that model does lock. No, you're thinking of something else. There's 2 models. This is the Boker Trans 42. That's this model specifically, and as you see, it is not a liner or frame lock because it does not lock into place. I'm not locking it. There's no lock here. You just fold it as a pen knife because it's a slip joint knife. Exactly the same looking as the one that has, yes, the lock, but this one, there's nothing to move away. It does not lock. Don't comment that I'm wrong about this because I'm literally showing you right now. It does not lock into place, and you just fold it, and there's nothing to it. There's 2 models, one that locks, one that does not lock. The one that does lock will land you in jail in London. This one is perfectly legal and is considered a UK legal pen knife. Now, it is a design that has been specifically made so as to comply with that, and it has a larger metal piece there which allows you to kind of grip strongly, and even though it does not lock into place because of the shape, you can kind of choke nicely into it. This would be an option in that kind of restrictive environments. Are there other options? Yes, but you have to be careful. For example, this is like a Keychain mini pal from Cold Steel. This would be considered a fixed blade. Tiny, but it's a fixed blade. It does not lock anywhere. It does not fold, but it's a fixed blade. Tiny, yes, if you have a restriction in terms of that, you can go with that. What about places like if you're in Germany? Germany has this thing where it has to it is single-handing opening or locking. This one locks into place, but it is not a single-hand open model, so it would be legal. Still a very decent blade for you to defend yourself if you have no other option. Now, when you don't have these restrictions, you can go, for example, for a lady, something like this, a Benchmade, a Spyderco Delica. These are very nice little knives, strong, sturdy, very sharp. You want something sharp. In my case, for many, many years, this is the knife I had. I had no such restrictions, so this was my option. This is something that will serve you very, very well to defend yourself. It is massive, it is intimidating, and yes, even though I don't count on that, I know for a fact it does intimidate people. Trust me, I've seen it happen firsthand, so I know. It is intimidating. People will, oh shit, you have a fucking sword with you. Yes, sir, I do. Okay, maybe I'll go bother someone else. Yeah, that's a good idea. See you later. Take care, right? That's the sort of thing. Now, in the case of a lot of people in Argentina, there was a wave of a guy doing, nasty things out there in the streets, and women were very scared of him, and they started carrying a kitchen knife. That's the kind of thing that people do when they're scared. Now, there are countries in which you don't have a restriction, or maybe it's like under 4 inch. Doesn't matter if it's a folding knife or a fixed knife. It's just under 4 inch. Okay, this is a very decent option. This is actually an excellent option. It is super sharp, super pointy. It cuts through the flesh and muscle and fat as if it's butter because it's extremely sharp, and yeah, you really can defend yourself very well with something like this. Now, There's a bunch of other, and you have to be careful about if it's legal or not, stuff like this, like little tiny things. Oh, this will give you great retention, right? Something like specifically design nice like this, great retention with this thing. Well, but what if you're, a woman, you don't have a lot of physical strength? Can you defend yourself with this? Yeah, sure. Would I rather have a longer blade? Keep in mind, if you don't have the same physical strength as your attacker and he just gets hold of your grip of your wrist like this, can you kind of, I have to start getting creative? I can probably do something, but if I have something like this, and this is also, keep in mind, it is small. I still probably have a way of getting around if I change my grip somewhat, but the longer the blade is, right? Ironically enough, even though the retention thing, with something like this, you're quickly getting close to something that will hurt that person, right? So ideally, a bigger knife is better. If you don't have the option, you go with whatever suits you best. At the end of the day, this is, for example, something that my son did, right? He was with his Victorinox knife. And I saw him. What is that, sweetheart? Yeah, it's a pointy stick. Oh, what is it for? For stabbing people. He's 6, which I guess says a lot about his upbringing. But he's not wrong. Can you stab someone with a sharp, pointy stick? You absolutely can. Is this legal in UK? It absolutely is. It is under 3 inches, non-locking. You can use this right away in preparing your sandwich or sharpening steak for a fucking vampire or whatever it is that he had in mind. But talking about your humble Victorinox, there is something here you've probably seen before, the owl or punch. This can also be used. You don't have to sharpen anything. You may not even have the time, or maybe you do. I don't know. But you have to keep in mind that the quicker it is to access, the more likely it is to be useful in an emergency. But this, your humble Victorinox, even though the blade does not lock into place and it would not be ideal, this other part that it does have, even though again not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, you can use this quite nicely to cause quite a bit of tearing and cutting and hurting and pain to a potential attacker. So guys, as you see, there are a bunch of options out there. It is a matter of knowing what's available to you, working around those limitations and restrictions, finding what suits you best depending on your physical strength, your training, your knowledge, the kind of situation you're likely to face, the kind of threat you're likely to face, but above all, know how to avoid these things, know how to detect potential threats before you find yourself in them. Get away, always being the better option if you can. Don't go for this wokey nonsense of, oh, I'm not gonna use the stereotypical thing. I don't judge people. Yes, judge people. If you see a bunch of African people in an African airport, it's probably fine. If you see a bunch of African people in a school, in a little garden, in front of a school, yeah, they're in London, it's probably not the kind of thing you should not stereotypically assume it could be a potential threat for you. You know what I'm talking about. No, I wish I had that advantage. It was not the case for me in Argentina. There was no such thing. If it had been, oh yes, people that are purple have a greater chance of being there illegally, and not only that, they are overrepresented in the crime rates that we have available. That's a fact. These are numbers that I know of, and it would be stupid to not use that to protect myself, knowing that certain groups of people are more likely in those environments to be up to no good. Use all of that information to your own benefit. When it comes down to this, guys, at the end of the day, no matter where you are, no matter what the laws are, if you have to defend your life any way you can, right? I just said follow your local laws. I do mean that. But also, no one is going to be replacing your loved ones. No one is going to undo the damage to your wife, your kids, yourself, if you let that happen. That's going to be always my priority, and it should be yours too. Take care, guys. Have a great day.